The sun had barely risen over the jagged mesas when Dakota rode alone across the arid plain. His horse, a sleek sorrel, moved like liquid through the morning haze, nostrils flaring at the scent of dust and distant fire. Dakota, a warrior of the Apache, was lean and scarred, his dark hair tied back with a strip of leather, his eyes sharp as hawks surveying the horizon. Today, however, his usual clarity of purpose was clouded by a knot of unease in his chest. He had been away from the tribe for a few days, scouting for signs of encroaching settlers, when word had reached him. The tribe had ambushed a small wagon train near the canyon road. Among the spoils of their raid was a white woman, taken captive. Some warriors spoke openly of selling her to rival tribes or frontier traders. Others whispered about killing her outright if she proved troublesome. But Dakota could not ignore the dread that had taken root in him. He could not allow her to be used as an object for barter or slaughter. Riding into the camp, he saw smoke curling from the fire pits, men moving with the careless confidence of success. The captured woman sat bound near a crude shelter, her hair tangled, her dress torn, and her pale face smeared with dirt and blood. Her eyes, wide and frightened, flickered over him as he approached. "Stay back," growled one of the men, a young warrior with brashness and too much pride. "She belongs to the tribe now." Dakota's hand hovered near his knife, but he did not draw it. His voice was calm, yet carried the authority that came from years of respect earned in battle. "I do not ask for permission. I ask for your honor." A snort of derision came from the man, and laughter echoed from the fire circle. Dakota ignored it. He looked at the woman, noting the way her lips trembled, the raw fear in her gaze. His own father's teachings echoed in his mind. A warrior's strength is not only measured in victory, but in protecting those who cannot defend themselves. The tribe had made its decision, he knew, and he was about to defy it. Dakota stepped closer, carefully scanning the camp for allies or threats. Some of the younger warriors watched silently, unsure whether to intervene or mock him. "Her life is not yours to take," he said, voice low but firm. "I will not allow it." The reaction was instant. Men drew weapons, knives flashing in the sunlight, tomahawks and clubs lifted in challenge. Dakota's pulse quickened, but his body moved like a shadow. He knew every inch of this place, the blind spots in the encampment, the gaps between tents. "Then you fight me," barked the tribe's second-in-command, a tall man with jagged scars across his cheek. Dakota nodded once. "I do not want blood unnecessarily. But I will defend her life, even if it means mine." The first clash was sudden. A knife swung toward him, parried with a swift deflection, then another. Dakota's movements were precise, economical, honed by years of hunting, fighting, and surviving. Each strike he made was calculated, aiming to disarm or incapacitate, not to kill. Yet he knew he would not be able to avoid fatal blows if the battle escalated. The woman's eyes widened as she watched him fight. Dakota caught her gaze and, in that brief moment, silently promised her that he would not let the tribe harm her. The firelight flickered against his lean, scarred frame as he moved, ducking, spinning, and striking with lethal grace, the desert sun igniting the sweat on his skin. Suddenly, a misstep. One of the brash warriors lunged with a tomahawk, and Dakota barely rolled aside, feeling the wind of the blade brush against his shoulder. He sprang up, grabbed a loose rock from the ground, and hurled it with all his strength. It struck the man across the head, knocking him unconscious. The fight continued, chaotic and unrelenting. Dakota's mind was clear amidst the frenzy. His focus was the woman. When one warrior tried to grab her, Dakota intercepted him, spinning him to the ground with a jarring motion that left both men winded but alive. Finally, the tribe hesitated. Dakota stood panting, arms bloodied from scrapes and bruises, but he remained upright, his stance unyielding. The woman remained bound, but unharmed, her eyes wide with astonishment and a flicker of hope. "You have chosen poorly, Dakota," the leader said, voice low and dangerous. "Defy the tribe, and you will pay with your life." Dakota did not flinch. "And what honor is there in taking her life? What strength in selling her? A warrior protects, not destroys." For a tense moment, the wind carried only the sounds of the distant plains, coyotes howling, the flap of eagle wings. Then the leader nodded slightly, a silent acknowledgment of Tekoda's skill and resolve. But the reprieve was temporary. The decision would not be left to words alone. Tekoda knew that leaving the camp alive, with the woman, would require cunning, not just courage. That night, as the tribe slept, Tekoda worked quietly. He untied the woman, whispering that she must follow him without fear. She hesitated at first, uncertainty etched into every line of her body, but the fire of resolve in his dark eyes was impossible to deny. Her name, she whispered as they slipped into the shadows, was Emily, a stranger from the east, frightened but alive. They moved like ghosts across the desert floor, Tekoda guiding Emily through hidden trails he alone knew. The moonlight painted silver paths across the rocky terrain. He explained, sparingly, the dangers they would face if the tribe discovered their absence. Emily's hands trembled as she followed him, yet she did not run, did not falter. Something in her trust ignited a spark in Tekoda he had never felt before. Not desire, not longing, but something deeper, something protective and tender. Hours passed. The terrain became harsher, the cliffs sharper, the nights colder. Tekoda hunted small game for them, shared water, and taught Emily to move silently, to listen to the wind and the whispers of the land. In the quiet moments, she told him of her life in a distant settlement, of the family she had lost, of the fear that had gripped her when the Apache warriors had captured her. He listened, nodding, offering little but his presence, and in that silent communion, a bond began to form. Yet Tekoda's mind was never fully at ease. Every shadow could conceal a tracker, every distant howl could be the tribe in pursuit. And he knew, with chilling certainty, that they would not let her go so easily. In the first light of dawn, as the horizon blushed with orange and gold, Emily looked at him with gratitude and fear mingled in her gaze. "Will they come for us?" she asked. Tekoda's jaw tightened. "Yes," he said simply. "And we must be ready." The desert around them was beautiful, wild, and unforgiving, much like the life Tekoda had chosen. But for the first time, he felt a responsibility not only to his people but to something else entirely. A fragile, growing connection that could either save them or doom them both. The first pursuit came at the edge of the canyon, where the earth broke into jagged cliffs and narrow ledges. Tekoda led Emily along a hidden trail, one carved over generations by his people, unseen by outsiders. He moved silently, scanning every shadow, every rise in the terrain. Behind them, dust rose in the distance, a faint hint of the tribe on horseback, relentless, familiar with the land as he was. Emily clutched his arm. "They're so close," she whispered, panic threading her voice. "Keep your fear quiet," he murmured. "If they hear it, they'll know our position." His dark eyes never left the horizon. He adjusted the bow across his back and tightened the grip on his knife. Every sense was alive. The wind carrying the scent of dust and horses, the faint metallic tang of danger. Hours passed, and the sun rose higher, turning the desert floor into a furnace. Emily stumbled, her legs weak from hunger and fear. Tekoda stopped, crouching beside her. "Drink," he said, offering a skin of water. "And eat this." He handed her a piece of dried meat he had hunted at dawn. As she ate, she looked at him, her wide blue eyes full of questions she could not voice. Why are you helping me?" she asked finally, the words trembling. Tekoda's jaw tightened. "Because it is right. Because they would destroy you if I allowed it. Because a warrior does not kill what he can save." Her lips trembled in relief and disbelief. I thought all of you were like them." He shook his head. "No, not all of us." The canyon narrowed, forcing them to single file along a rocky ledge. Tekoda moved first, knife ready, ears attuned to every sound. The sun carved long shadows, stretching across the crevices, masking dangers both natural and human. Emily followed, one hand on the rock, the other gripping the bough he had lent her. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed. Horses! The tribe had found a shortcut, faster than Tekoda had expected. He cursed under his breath, scanning the cliff for options. There was none. The ledge ended abruptly in a drop too high to jump, and the canyon walls rose sheer on either side. "Hold on!" he shouted. He grabbed Emily's hand, pulling her behind a boulder. Arrows hissed through the air, one striking stone with a clang that sent shrapnel flying. Dakota returned fire with his bow, striking a warrior in the shoulder. The man fell with a howl, giving them a precious few seconds to move. Breathing hard, Dakota pulled Emily down a narrow crevice he had memorized as a child. They slid through, scraped and bloodied, but out of sight. For a moment, silence reigned. The woman's hand lingered on his arm. "You saved me," she whispered. "I will again if I must," he replied, voice low, resolute. By evening, they found a small oasis, hidden among twisted mesquite and a narrow stream. Dakota allowed Emily a brief respite while he hunted small game. The desert night crept over them, stars blazing like pinpricks in velvet. Around the fire, Emily's fear slowly gave way to awe as she watched him clean and cook the meat. He moved with a calm, fluid precision born of years in the wilderness, every action purposeful. "I've never seen anyone like you," she said, watching him as he worked. He glanced at her. "Like me." She nodded. "Strong, careful, brave, alive." Her words were tentative, but they carried warmth that made his chest tighten in a way he could not explain. Dakota said nothing. Words were dangerous in these moments. They could betray strategy, invite danger, or expose vulnerability. Instead, he offered her a small piece of cooked meat, which she accepted, their fingers brushing. The contact was fleeting, but the spark lingered between them like embers in the night. Sleep came uneasy. Dakota kept watch while Emily rested, listening to every rustle of leaves, every distant sound of hooves. When he finally allowed himself a moment to rest, he dreamt of his people, his father's stern face, the pride of the tribe, the duty that bound him to them, and of Emily's frightened eyes, searching for salvation. Morning brought the next trial. The tribe had not given up. Dakota heard them before Emily did, their war cries faint but unmistakable across the canyon. They had split forces, attempting to flank. He knew the terrain, but the odds were growing. He woke Emily, urging silence. "We cannot fight them all head-on," he whispered. "We must use the cliffs, the shadows. There are old paths here only we can see." The day was a gauntlet. Dakota led her through hidden ledges, over rocky outcroppings, and along narrow waterless streams. Several times, warriors appeared around bends, and Dakota dispatched them quietly, or distracted them long enough to move Emily to safety. Each encounter left them more exhausted, more wary. Yet through the ordeal, a bond formed. Emily's admiration for his skill and courage grew, as did something deeper. Dakota, who had always measured life in survival and honor, began to feel something he had never allowed himself. Affection, perhaps love, for this fragile, determined woman who trusted him with her life. It was near sunset, when they paused on a high ledge overlooking the canyon floor, that the first moment of vulnerability occurred. Emily turned to him, her cheeks flushed from the heat and exertion. Why risk yourself for me?" she asked, voice trembling. Dakota looked into her eyes, the fading sunlight casting a golden hue across her hair. "Because I cannot let you die," he said simply. "Not when I can save you. Not when it is right." Her hand found his. For a heartbeat, the desert, the danger, and the tribe's pursuit faded. There was only the touch, the warmth, the shared understanding that survival alone was not enough. They needed each other. But fate was never still. A shadow fell across the ledge. Dakota turned sharply. Two warriors, faster than he anticipated, had tracked them to the very edge of the cliff. Their eyes gleamed with the certainty of capture and revenge. Dakota gritted his teeth. "Run!" he shouted, shoving Emily down a hidden path along the cliff face. She obeyed instantly, fear and trust propelling her forward. Dakota turned to face the warriors, knife in hand, bow ready, every sense sharpened. He was alone against them, yet unafraid. He would not let them touch her. The first warrior lunged. Dakota sidestepped, slashing with the knife, forcing him over the edge into a tumble that ended in a scream. The second charged, and they grappled, knife to knife, muscle to muscle, until Dakota's strength prevailed. He barely had time to retrieve Emily and pull her to the path before the pursuing tribe regained their footing. As the night fell, they stumbled into a narrow canyon, a labyrinth that only Dakota's memory could guide them through. Exhausted, battered, yet alive, they pressed on, the stars above silent witnesses to their flight. In that moment, amidst the harsh desert and relentless pursuit, something profound passed between them. Emily clung to Dakota, not just for survival, but because she trusted him with her very heart. And Dakota, the Apache warrior who had lived by honor and skill, found himself guarding not only life, but love, something he had never anticipated, something that might be as dangerous as the tribe hunting them. The canyon walls closed in as dawn broke, a pale light illuminating the jagged cliffs and twisted boulders. Dakota led Emily through the narrow passages, every step calculated, every breath measured. Their pursuers were relentless. He could hear their war cries echoing faintly, carried by the wind like shadows of doom. But he knew the land better than any of them, every hidden ledge, every false path. "Stay close," he whispered, gripping her hand. "Trust me, no matter what you see." Emily nodded, fear etched into her face, yet determination shining in her eyes. Over the past days, she had grown in ways she hadn't imagined possible, learning to move silently, to read the land, to trust a man she had just met, whose life she had once feared. They emerged into a wider canyon, the sun now climbing, painting the desert in stark golds and reds. Ahead, a small stream carved a green ribbon through the barren land. Dakota saw their chance, a natural choke point where the canyon narrowed, perfect for an ambush. He turned to Emily. "Hide behind the rocks," he said. "I will draw them in." She protested, but he silenced her with a sharp look. "Trust me. You must survive." Dakota moved into the open, letting the warriors see him. Their eyes lit with the certainty of capture, of victory. They rode in, confident, underestimating the cunning and resolve of the Apache warrior. As they neared, Dakota sprang into action. Rocks fell, arrows whistled through the air, and he fought with a precision born of desperation and skill. He disarmed 2 men, striking another with the butt of his knife. The canyon echoed with shouts, the clash of weapons, and the pounding of hooves. But then, a twist. One of the warriors grabbed Emily as she tried to escape from behind the rocks. Dakota's heart surged with panic. He charged, tackling the man to the ground, rolling across sand and stone, knives clashing. Emily screamed, and in that instant, he felt a primal need to protect her, to keep her alive at any cost. When the dust settled, the warriors had either fled or lay unconscious. Dakota's chest heaved, his body slick with sweat and blood. He rushed to Emily, kneeling beside her, checking her for injuries. She was bruised, shaken, but alive. Relief flooded through him, so intense it made his knees weak. Emily looked up at him, eyes shining. "You saved me, again." Her voice was trembling, but in it was gratitude and something more, a spark of emotion neither had admitted until now. Dakota shook his head, voice hoarse. "No. We survived. Together." For a moment, the desert was silent, save for the distant cry of a hawk and the whispering wind. Emily reached out, brushing sand from his arm. Her hand lingered on his shoulder, and for the first time, Dakota allowed himself to feel not only relief but a deep, consuming care. He wanted her to be safe, yes, but also near him, wanted her heart close to his own. That night, as they camped near the stream, the stars stretched across the sky like a blanket of silver. Emily spoke quietly, sharing stories of her life, of family, of dreams interrupted by fear and captivity. Dakota listened, fascinated not just by her words but by the resilience behind them, the courage that had brought her this far. I don't know how to thank you," she said softly, her gaze holding his. "You already have," he replied. "By trusting me, by staying alive." The air between them changed. The danger of the chase had forged a bond neither had expected, a bond of survival, of shared fear, and now, something tender, fragile, and electric. Emily leaned closer, resting her head against his shoulder. Dakota's hand went to her hair, brushing it back gently, feeling warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. But peace was fleeting. The tribe, enraged and humiliated, had not given up. In the early hours of the next day, scouts appeared on the horizon. Dakota and Emily had to move quickly, knowing that a final confrontation was inevitable. They climbed higher into the cliffs, reaching a plateau that overlooked the valley below. Here, Takoda devised a plan. Using the natural terrain, they could trap the pursuing warriors in a narrow ravine, giving them no room to maneuver. Emily, following his instructions, set small traps, using sand, rocks, and hidden pitfalls. When the tribe descended, confident in their numbers, they were caught off guard. Horses stumbled, warriors fell into hidden pits, and Takoda struck with precision, taking advantage of the chaos. It was brutal but necessary. By sunset, the remaining men had retreated, wounded and humiliated, their cries echoing across the canyon as a warning. Takoda turned to Emily, chest heaving, sweat and blood mingling on his skin. "It's over," he said, almost incredulous. "We are free." Emily ran into his arms, tears streaking her face. "I knew you would protect me," she whispered. I never thought anyone would." Takoda held her close, the bond forged in battle, fear, and shared endurance stronger than anything he had known. In the silence of the desert, amidst the jagged cliffs and endless sky, he realized that he had found something unexpected. Love, fierce and unwavering, born from courage and trust. The journey back to civilization was long, fraught with peril, but nothing could diminish what they had gained. Takoda guided Emily through hidden trails, hunting and protecting her, sharing stories of his people, and in turn learning of her world. With each passing day, the love between them deepened, not soft and fragile, but enduring, tempered by the fire of survival and the shared knowledge of what they had faced together. Months later, when they reached the outskirts of the nearest settlement, Emily turned to Takoda. "I can never repay you," she said. "You do not owe me," he replied. "You owe only yourself, to live, to survive, to carry the strength you've shown here." She smiled, a faint blush on her cheeks, and stepped closer. "Then I suppose I owe you everything." Takoda's hand found hers. In the open plains, with the wind brushing against them and the sun dipping low, they shared a moment of quiet triumph. Against all odds, against the fury of his own tribe, and against the cruel randomness of the frontier, they had survived. Together. And in that survival, in that trust and bond forged through fire and blood, they discovered a love that neither desert, danger, nor tribal law could extinguish. Takoda, Apache warrior and guardian, had found not only victory in battle but the victory of the heart, love against all odds, in the unforgiving old Wild West.